How do we explain that somehow more and more people turn their attention towards what we call populist parties, exactly at the time in which all sociologists, politologists, economists tell us that there is less trust in institutions, less trust in governments, less trust in politics in general, less trust in parties, in politicians, and even in markets, right? So there is this very general sense that in the last 2 or 3 decades, across all Western democracies, people have lost trust. But why does this collapse of trust of all kinds necessarily lead, maybe it doesn't, maybe there is no link, but I thought there seemed to be this connection, right? People are losing trust, and somehow intuitively people say this brings them to populism. But why? There was a missing link. Why is it the case? And so what I'm trying to explain is that the link is called commitment. Suppose that you want to choose your representative, but you don't trust people anymore. Would you give this person more or less discretion? The answer is pretty obvious. If you trust me or any other potential representative less than before, you want to give me less discretion. People don't trust, so they go when they choose their political representatives, parties, candidates, they choose them in a way that they want to somehow tie their hands a little bit, right? And that's why you see that now more and more politicians are trying to commit to specific policy platforms, walls, Brexit, protectionism, citizenship income, all that stuff. So what's so wrong with choosing a few commitments to policies? Well, one thing that is wrong potentially is that the world may change tomorrow. There could be a COVID problem, or there could be a war, Russia-Ukraine, so the state of the world changes, and maybe those commitments that you made in the campaign are not good anymore. And then what do you do? How do you judge someone who made a commitment that is not good anymore? So there is some problem already with this. But then the next step that is very worrisome is that the moment I try to be elected and re-elected with policy commitments, I am starting to hate those who could block me. Now comes the worrisome next step. Because more and more politicians are committing, then more and more politicians in office want to increase executive power, want to reduce checks and balances, want to reduce media freedom, want to reduce judiciary independence, want to reduce expert public bureaucrats' scope. And this stuff started out before populism. Started out with Gingrich in the United States when he wrote The Contract for America and didn't get elected, so we don't know those commitments, how they would have played out. And then it continued, let's say, with Berlusconi, who is considered probably the first populist in Europe, who copied Gingrich and introduced the 5 or 6, or I don't remember how many points, or 10 contracts with Italians, contracts for Italy. Basically, since then, many other politicians in many other countries decided to present themselves to the voters with simple policy commitments. And that's what then led to other things that now are worrying us as populists. So understanding those channels, from crisis to populism, was interesting from the academic, scientific point of view. But now, the more I study it, the more I'm worried about the consequences, right? Because populist leaders of some form or another are present in executive governments in 25% of Western democracies. So it's not a small number. And so now we start seeing consequences.